My fiancée went live from a wellness retreat, mocking me to her friends, unaware I was watching. She laughed. He's so loyal and dumb. I typed in the chat, am I? Then I canceled the engagement in the comments. She panicked, trying to end the stream as she realized what happened. The live stream wasn't supposed to mean anything, just background noise while I sat on the couch, half drunk on exhaustion and 2 fingers of whiskey, scrolling my company's internal social app like I did most nights when I couldn't sleep. It was almost midnight, the kind of hour where your thoughts get loud and the house gets too quiet. My name's Adam. I'm 32. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. Software architect by title, problem solver by habit. The kind of guy who likes order and routine. The kind of guy who stays loyal, shows up on time, and never cheats on his taxes or his fiancée. Speaking of, Elise wasn't home. She was at some wellness retreat with her friends Lana, Kim, and Ivy up in the mountains for the weekend. No phones allowed, she'd said. Strict digital detox. It sounded weird, but not unbelievable. Elise had always been into that new age stuff. Breath work, cacao ceremonies, those sound bath things where everyone lies around pretending a bowl hum can heal your trauma. But here's the thing. I wasn't looking for her. I wasn't snooping. I was just flipping through the Live Now section of the app. Same as always, when I saw the thumbnail. Save circle secrets, pre-ritual confessions. It had 1 viewer, then 2, then 12. I clicked it before I could think. Before my better judgment could ask, why the hell would Elise be live streaming from a retreat with no phones allowed? There she was, center of the frame, red wine in one hand, glossy lips, sun-kissed skin, hair curled like she'd walked off a salon set instead of some backwoods cabin. Elise, laughing with Lana, Kim, and Ivy, all of them squeezed together on a big white couch, half drunk, half posed, like this was some Real Housewives audition tape. There were candles and sage burning behind them. Pre-ritual confessions, the caption said. Except there was no ritual, just a bottle of Merlot and a crowd of petty. At first, it was harmless. I watched Elise talk about how great it felt to let go of expectation. Lana said something about her boyfriend being too needy. Ivy laughed about skipping out on rent again. Kim joked about how she manifested a sugar daddy with back pain and a trust fund. But then it turned. Lana said, "Can we talk about Elise's fiancé, Mr. Spreadsheet?" Kim giggled. "You mean Captain Loyalty? Captain Boring?" Ivy chimed in. Elise waved her hand. No, come on. He's sweet." They looked at her. She took a long sip of her wine. Then she smiled. It wasn't kind. He's like a golden retriever. Loyal, dumb, and loaded. They all howled. She kept going. I mean, the man still thinks budgeting is sexy. Like, dude, let's talk about feelings, not your Roth IRA. Kim fanned herself. I can't. I'd cheat in a week. Elise laughed. That's the point, babe. You lock him in, get the house, get the perks, and then you hire a personal trainer with tattoos. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. I just stared at the screen while my heart curled up in my chest like it was ashamed to beat for her. She was talking like I was a brand, a bank, a temporary phase on the way to the real adventure. And not a single one of her friends stopped her. They laughed. They nodded. They toasted. To the fool. To me. I sat there, phone in hand, screen glowing in my lap, watching the woman I thought I was going to marry mock my entire existence in front of an audience that knew her better than I apparently ever did. I should have shut it off. Should have stood up, paced, punched a pillow, done anything to ground myself. But I didn't. I watched the rest of it. I watched them dissect my routines, joke about how I meal prep, tease the way I fold laundry, how his idea of fun is debugging code and arguing about Ethernet cables. Elise leaned in like she was whispering a secret. I told my mom if I marry him, I'll never have to worry about money again. She said, well, some girls marry for love, and some marry smart. So here we are. That's when my thumb hovered over the comment box. That's when I stopped feeling confused and started feeling something else. Cold, quiet, done. I didn't plan it. There was no dramatic pause, no deep breath, no cinematic countdown. I just tapped the comment box with my thumb, stared at the blinking cursor for a second, and typed what felt like the only honest thing left in the world. Really? Am I dumb, Elise? I had sinned. The ripple was instant. On screen, Elise's laughter caught in her throat. Her smile froze. Her eyes darted to the lower corner where the comment had popped up. Lana was the first to notice. She leaned over, squinting at the screen, then whispered something in Elise's ear, her hand covering her mouth like that could somehow undo what I'd seen. Kim looked straight into the camera. Y'all, I think he's watching." Panic bloomed on Elise's face like a slap. The drunk confidence drained from her body in real time. She sat up straighter, smoothing her hair, blinking too fast. Ivy muttered something like, "Oh shit," under her breath, and suddenly the retreat didn't look so serene anymore. I watched Elise fumble. She opened her mouth, then closed it, reached for the wine glass, then set it down. Her entire expression flickered between guilt and performance, like she was trying to figure out what angle would make this look like a joke instead of a confession. I didn't give her the chance. My fingers moved on their own. Engagement canceled. Consider this the last transaction funded by my loyalty. Send. And that was it. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I didn't beg for answers. I gave her the dignity she'd never offered me. The truth, delivered clean. The stream exploded. Comments flooded in from coworkers, friends, people from our social circle who knew us as that couple. the stable one, the solid one. Hearts. Shocked emojis. Awkward question marks filled the screen. Elise's face crumpled. No, wait, she started, leaning toward the camera, but Lana yanked the phone out of the tripod with a shriek. The feed went black. I stared at the empty screen. Then I muted my phone. Not just the app. Everything. Notifications. Messages. The whole digital circus. I walked into the kitchen and poured the rest of the whiskey down the drain. Then I opened the fridge, took out her favorite oat milk creamer, and threw it straight into the trash. It was petty, I know, but it felt like claiming space again. By the time I'd sat back down on the couch, her name was already trending inside our company's social app ecosystem. Hashtag Golden Retriever Gate, someone called it. People were posting reaction memes. A few folks I barely talked to messaged me WTF, and are you okay? I didn't reply. The silence felt good. I turned off the lights and let the glow from the city skyline fill the apartment. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't wondering when Elise would be home. I knew exactly where she was. Lost, exposed, and no longer my problem. That night, I slept like a man who had finally deleted the virus pretending to be his future. It didn't take long. 15 minutes, maybe 20. I just poured myself a glass of water and was staring out the window at the city when I heard the knock. No doorbell, no polite tap, just hard, urgent banging. The kind that doesn't wait for permission. I already knew who it was. I opened the door to find Elise standing there with smeared mascara, bare shoulders and some kind of wrinkled wrap top, her eyes wide and glassy. And beside her, like a lawyer ready to file a lawsuit at midnight, was her mother, Valerie Monroe, Charlotte's unofficial queen of socialites and subtle cruelty. She was still in heels, a pressed blazer over a silk blouse like she'd come straight from brunch with a judge. Her face looked like it had been sculpted in disappointment and Botox. Adam, Elise said, her voice cracking. I didn't say a word, just leaned on the doorframe and waited. Sweetheart, we need to talk, Valerie said, stepping forward like she owned the place. This whole thing is a ridiculous misunderstanding. I looked her straight in the eye. You're not coming in. That stopped her. Elise stepped in front of her, hands shaking slightly. Adam, please. I didn't mean any of it like that. We were drinking. It was a dumb, stupid stream. Just spa wine talk, you know. Spa wine talk. Like calling me dumb and loyal and manipulatable was some kind of yoga therapy gone wrong. You said I was the golden retriever of relationships, I said flatly. Loyal, dumb, and loaded. She flinched. It was a joke. Really? I asked. Was it a joke when you said I was just funding your dreams? Her mouth opened, then nothing. No denial, no protest, just silence. Her eyes flicked away, shame crawling up her face like heat she couldn't fan off. Valerie exhaled like I was being dramatic. Adam, don't throw away a relationship over a silly comment. Honestly, it was beneath you to air this publicly. Publicly. I laughed once, quiet and bitter. That stream was public. I just replied. She crossed her arms. Well, if you must know, Elise is devastated. This has been incredibly embarrassing for her. You've humiliated her. Do you have any idea what kind of fallout we're dealing with right now? I raised my eyebrows. You mean fallout like telling your friends you're marrying a man for stability while making fun of him behind his back? Or do you mean fallout like people seeing who you all really are? You're being cruel, Valerie snapped. You owe Elise an apology. That stopped me. I stepped forward just enough that she had to take half a step back. Elise, I said quietly, just answer me one thing. She looked up at me, lips trembling, hands clutched together like a child bracing for bad news. Was it a joke when you said you were marrying me for the lifestyle? The hallway was dead silent. She stared at me, then dropped her eyes to the floor. And that was my answer. I took a deep breath, not for her, for me. Then I shut the door. No slam, no yelling, just the clean, final sound of closure. On the other side, I heard her start to cry. Heard Valerie hiss something sharp like, I told you this would blow up. Footsteps retreated down the hallway. I locked the door, turned around, and leaned against it. The apartment was quiet again, but something had shifted, not just the relationship. Me. I had always believed love was about forgiveness and understanding, that if someone needed time or space or made mistakes, you gave them grace. But grace doesn't cover manipulation. It doesn't excuse cruelty dressed as jokes. It doesn't justify marrying someone you secretly despise, just to upgrade your lifestyle. That night, I didn't check my phone, didn't look at texts, didn't scroll. I just turned off the lights, climbed into bed, and slept with the kind of peace you earn after finally choosing yourself. And on the other side of that closed door, I knew Elise had lost the one thing she couldn't buy back. Me. I figured that would be the end of it, at least for a few days. Give Elise time to lick her wounds, maybe let Valerie regroup and repackage her outrage into something less theatrical. But I should have known better. The next morning was quiet. Too quiet. I got up, made coffee, skipped my usual routine of checking email and notifications, and headed into the office early. I was halfway through reviewing some deployment logs when my phone lit up with a Slack message from Bree, our front desk coordinator. Bree, hey, Adam, there's a woman and her mother asking for you downstairs. One of them said her name is Elise. Do you want me to tell security? I froze for half a second, then typed, me. Yes. By the time I stood up, my phone was vibrating again, this time a direct call from our head of HR, Dave. The man hated confrontation more than he hated bugs in production. Hey, Adam, he said, drawing out the words like he was trying not to breathe them. So Elise Monroe is here, with her mother. They're in the lobby right now making kind of a scene. Do you want to come down and— No, I said flatly. I already told Bree to call security. A pause. Okay, good. Just, please deal with your personal drama outside company walls. You know how optics work around here. He hung up before I could respond. I walked over to the glass wall near the elevators and looked down. Sure enough, there they were. Elise in a high-neck cream blouse like she was going to a prayer circle, and Valerie in black, arms folded, lips pursed in a way that could peel wallpaper. Security showed up about 2 minutes later, both guys in suits, calm but firm. I couldn't hear what was said, but I saw Elise burst into tears and Valerie argue, pointing up toward the building like she was pointing at an executioner. They were escorted out. That should have been satisfying, but it wasn't. It was surreal. Like watching the final act of a bad play you didn't realize you'd been cast in. I tried to get back to work, but I couldn't focus. I kept wondering what their angle was. Why show up at my workplace? And then, right before lunch, I got my answer. An envelope was waiting on my desk when I returned from the bathroom. No stamp, no delivery record. Someone had clearly handed it off directly to reception. Inside was a single-page letter from a law firm I didn't recognize. Monetary recovery for emotional distress and loss of wedding deposits. Amount requested, $15,000. Apparently, Elise had retained a lawyer. She wanted money, not just a refund. She wanted me to cover emotional trauma, the humiliation of the live stream, the sudden collapse of planned marital life, and what her lawyer referred to as financial damages tied to wedding arrangements that the defendant encouraged and financially committed to before withdrawing in bad faith. Bad faith. I stared at the words, then let out a short, stunned laugh. Not angry, not bitter, just exhausted. The girl who called me dumb and loyal and loaded, who said she was marrying me for the perks, now wanted a $15,000 refund for her own mistakes. She'd taken shots at my pride. Now she was going for my bank account. I snapped a photo of the letter, emailed it to my lawyer Rachel, and added a short note. Me. Looks like Elise wants a payout. Ready for the counterpunch? Her response came 3 minutes later. Rachel, send me everything. Screen recordings, messages, all of it. I'm about to turn their case into confetti. I leaned back in my chair and smiled. They had no idea who they were messing with now. Elise might have underestimated me as her golden retriever, dumb, loyal, and rich. But what she forgot was that even golden retrievers bite when you kick them hard enough. And I was done being anyone's obedient anything. Rachel Leung didn't waste time. By that afternoon, she had already drafted a letter, 2 pages, surgical in tone, brutal in precision. Her words weren't loud. They didn't need to be. They cut deeper because of how calm they were. Dear counsel, we categorically reject the claim of financial liability regarding wedding-related expenses. Your client's recorded behavior constitutes defamation, manipulation, and demonstrable bad faith, as evidenced by a public livestream viewed by over 200 individuals within our client's professional and personal circles. Should this case proceed to court, we are prepared to submit screen recordings, app metadata, and corroborating testimony regarding the disparagement of our client's character and financial exploitation thereof. Furthermore, we reserve the right to countersue for reputational damage and emotional distress caused by the attempted public humiliation of our client in what can reasonably be characterized as a premeditated act. In the interest of expediency, we invite you to dismiss this claim immediately. Warm regards, Rachel Leung, ESQ. I read it 3 times and felt something inside me loosen, like an invisible weight I'd been carrying since that night finally lifted. I sent Rachel everything, the screen recordings, snapshots of the chat during the stream, past messages from Elise where she joked about marrying up, about how Adam will take care of it whenever something costs too much. There were even old texts where she admitted her friends called me an insurance policy in human form. Every word became ammunition. Rachel compiled it all into a neat little packet labeled Exhibit A, Pattern of Intent. It was almost poetic. Then we waited. 1 day passed, then 3, a full week. The same lawyer who demanded 15 grand on a Tuesday was now quiet. Not a single reply. Not even a follow-up call. Then, that Friday, Rachel forwarded me a new message. Elise's counsel, given the sensitive nature of the situation, our client is open to exploring an informal mediation to avoid further conflict. I nearly laughed. Mediation? Suddenly this was a misunderstanding? A sensitive matter. Instead of a public train wreck with Elise at the wheel? Rachel called me as soon as she got the email. So she said, "Do you want to mediate?" "Not a chance," I replied. "They wanted to humiliate me. Now they want to avoid court because they know they'll lose." "Thought you'd say that," she said. "I already told them we're not interested." The next few hours were strangely quiet. I sat in my apartment, sipping coffee, watching the city move outside my window, and thought about how different things looked now. I used to picture Elise as this calm, collected force in my life. Someone graceful, measured, the kind of person who brought balance to my quiet, nerdy world. But all of that was gone. What I saw now was someone strategic. Someone who smiled when it was convenient, praised me when she needed something, and flipped the board when she couldn't control the game anymore. She thought I'd roll over. Thought I'd apologize. Thought I'd pay her to go away quietly. But I wasn't the golden retriever anymore. I wasn't chasing anyone, and I sure as hell wasn't throwing money at someone who tried to burn my life down for content and cocktails. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and deleted our shared wedding folder from Google Drive. One more piece gone. One step closer to clean. It started like a bad draft of office gossip. Little whispers, side eyes, and sudden silences when I entered a room. At first, I figured it was just the aftermath of the livestream fallout. Word had spread fast, and Elise wasn't exactly a nobody in our extended social circles. But by the end of the week, it became clear this wasn't just ambient curiosity. It was targeted. I found out from Bree, again. She slid into my office at the end of the day, shutting the door behind her with the kind of careful motion that always means bad news. "Hey," she said gently. "I thought you should know. Something's been going around." I blinked. Around? She hesitated. "Rumors. Anonymous emails. Sent to HR. And some of your contacts on LinkedIn." My stomach tightened. "What kind of rumors?" She shifted her weight. "Stuff about financial misconduct. That you embezzled from a past employer. That you emotionally manipulated Elise. That you're, quote, dangerously controlling in personal relationships." I sat back in my chair, stunned. She raised her eyebrows. "None of it's being taken seriously. HR flagged it all as anonymous and baseless. But still, they're doing a quiet review. Just in case." I exhaled slowly. Not angry yet. Just tired. "Thanks, Bree," I said. "Appreciate the heads up." She paused before leaving. "If it means anything, nobody around here believes that crap." After she left, I opened my email and sure enough, a red flag notice from HR sat in my inbox. Polite but stiff. A standard check-in to ensure any external concerns do not interfere with your internal role. The kind of message that only gets sent when someone's stirring mud behind your back. I started tracing it. The email came from an untraceable Proton Mail account. The attached PDF, yes, they even had a PDF, was formatted like a background report. It cited no sources, used vague language, and referenced testimony from unnamed ex-girlfriends. There were no facts, just toxic fiction. But there was one thing that gave it away. A screenshot of a Slack message, the one I had posted during Elise's livestream. My comment, "Really? Am I dumb, Elise?" The only people who had access to that original feed were from our internal circle. The only people who would have screen grabbed it, saved it, and weaponized it were the same people who laughed at me on that couch. I thought about Elise. No, I thought about Lana. She was the one who'd first called me Captain Loyalty, the one who pointed at the screen during the stream and whispered to Elise that I was watching. She was the loudest, the most vicious, and the most bored. And now she was hiding behind fake accounts, trying to ruin my name because I had the nerve to stand up for myself. They weren't just embarrassed. They were angry. They thought I'd go quietly. Instead, I'd humiliated them with nothing more than the truth. I took it all and packaged it. Screenshots, email headers, message metadata. I sent it to Rachel with a note. "Me. They're trying to tank my job now. Anonymous smear campaign. Can we go nuclear yet?" Her reply came fast. "Rachel, not yet, but close. Let them underestimate you a little longer. That's when the hammer hits hardest." HR concluded their review by the following Monday. No disciplinary action, no merit to the claims. I was in the clear. Still, the damage lingered in the air, not to my reputation, but to my trust. I walked the office halls differently now. Less casual, less open, like a man who'd learned that even being a good guy made you a target when someone felt entitled to use you. That night, I ordered dinner, sat on my couch, and opened a blank document titled, "Lana, Cease and Desist Draft." Rachel would finish it later, but I wanted to start the first line myself. "You thought loyalty was weakness. Let me show you what strength looks like." They wanted a war. I was just getting started. I filed the restraining order on a Tuesday. There was no announcement, no drama. I just walked into the Mecklenburg County Courthouse with Rachel, handed the clerk a stack of documents, and signed my name on the line where it asked if I felt reasonably endangered by continued contact. Yes, I did. Not physically, not in the way people usually think. But the smear campaign, the legal ambush, the unwanted visits to my office, the attacks on my character, my livelihood, and my sanity, that was enough. The hearing was scheduled for the following week, and Elise showed up dressed like it was a red carpet, not a courtroom. Beige designer coat, pale pink lipstick, the same clutch she used on our trip to Savannah. She walked in like she was the one pressing charges, soft-voiced, wide-eyed, dripping with confused innocence. And beside her, as expected, was Lana, not sitting next to her, but 2 rows behind, pretending she wasn't involved. I knew better. Rachel and I took our seats at the petitioner's table. She opened the folder in front of us, exposing all the neat little exhibits we'd brought: the live stream transcript, the anonymous email packet, the cease and desist draft with IP evidence Rachel had traced back to Lana's co-working space. The judge walked in, a tall man with reading glasses and the face of someone who didn't tolerate wasted time. "Let's begin," he said, looking over the paperwork. "Mr. Harris, you're requesting a no-contact order on the basis of harassment, defamation, and retaliatory sabotage?" "Yes, Your Honor," Rachel answered. "We have exhibits." The first 20 minutes were us laying it out. Clean, calm, factual. The live stream, the public comments, the targeted smear campaign through anonymous emails, the attempt to weaponize workplace HR. the financial extortion wrapped in a lawsuit, and finally, the coordinated effort to damage my reputation and career. The judge asked one question: do you believe Ms. Monroe, or any individuals acting on her behalf, present a continued threat to your personal or professional well-being? I nodded. Yes, sir, I do. When it was her turn, Elise stood up slowly. She placed one hand delicately over her chest, like this was a wedding toast. She began, her voice trembling. I just wanted to have a beautiful wedding. That's dream. That was a moment of stupid, tipsy banter. I never meant to hurt Adam. I loved him. Rachel didn't even flinch. Do you mean you love the man? Or the lifestyle? Elise froze. Excuse me. Rachel turned to the judge. Your Honor, we have evidence that Ms. Monroe described our client as a golden retriever, loyal, dumb, and loaded in a public setting, that she planned to marry him for financial security, and that, upon being exposed, she and her associates engaged in a calculated campaign to discredit him. The judge turned to Elise. Ms. Monroe, is there anyone here who has been coordinating with you regarding this campaign? Elise's eyes flicked backward, just for a second, to Lana, and that's when it happened. Her mouth opened. She stuttered. I didn't know Lana was going to. I didn't ask her to. Rachel pounced. So you're confirming Ms. Lana Harrison was the source of the defamatory claims? Elise's hand flew to her mouth. Realizing too late what she had just said, her lawyer sank an inch in his chair. Lana stood up in the gallery. Excuse me, that is not. The judge banged his gavel. Ms. Harrison, sit down. You are not a party in this hearing. Elise looked like she might faint. The judge scribbled something in his notebook, then looked up. Based on the evidence and the behavior documented here, I find the request for a restraining order reasonable and necessary. Ms. Monroe, you are not to contact Mr. Harris directly or indirectly, including through third parties, for a minimum of 12 months. Violation will be grounds for criminal penalties. He turned to Elise one last time. Consider this a final warning, Ms. Monroe. You chose to make a public spectacle of this man's personal life. Any further attempts to discredit or harass him will be taken very seriously. Bang. That was it. The order was granted. Elise sat back down slowly, her lips trembling. Lana didn't look at her. Not once. Outside the courtroom, Rachel smiled as she folded the file. Checkmate. I didn't say anything. I just looked up at the sky, the cold spring wind cutting across my face like something clean, something final. They tried to ruin me. Instead, they revealed themselves. And now I had a restraining order, legal documentation, and a quiet courtroom transcript that proved I wasn't the villain of this story. I was the survivor, and I was finally free. The first thing I did after the court ruling was head home and open a spreadsheet, not to track revenge or calculate damages. That part was already handled. This was about closure. I went line by line through everything Elise and I had ever merged: bank accounts, utility bills, subscriptions, travel memberships, digital services. It was a longer list than I expected. Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, DoorDash credits, even our shared Kindle library. Her name was on so many things, it almost made me laugh. I spent the next 4 hours dismantling our life together. Every password changed, every payment revoked. I contacted my bank and requested a formal audit of any transfers from my accounts to hers in the last 6 months. Not because I needed the money back, but because I needed the receipts. I closed the joint savings account. It had a balance of $14.23 and one scheduled transfer to a yoga studio in Asheville. I let it bounce. Then I called Rachel and told her I wanted to issue a final cease and desist, not just for Elise, but for Lana specifically. I want her name in writing, I said. No more shadows. No more side games. Rachel sounded pleased. Done. I'll have it out by tomorrow. The document went out via courier the next morning. It was clean, professional, and packed with the kind of legal language that doesn't yell. It threatens with absolute silence. 2. Ms. Lana Harrison. Subject: Notice of formal cease and desist. You are hereby instructed to refrain from any and all contact, digital or otherwise, with Mr. Adam Harris. This includes, but is not limited to, social media activity, workplace correspondence, third-party messaging, or defamatory commentary in public or private forums. Should this instruction be ignored, we will pursue legal remedies to the fullest extent available under state and federal law. I signed it digitally, then exhaled. Done. No more Elise. No more Lana. No more pretending we'd ever been on equal footing. Then I looked at my contact list and did something harder. I started deleting mutual friends. Not just blocking, not rage unfollowing, just quietly removing anyone who had stayed neutral when Elise mocked me, or who posted a meme about relationship drama without ever asking if I was okay. I wasn't angry. I was just finished. Because the truth is, you see people clearly when you're down. You see who texts, who listens, who changes the subject when things get uncomfortable. And you also see who watched that live stream, laughed along, then came to your page to ask if you were still going through it. I cut ties. I didn't explain. I didn't leave notes. I just let the silence speak for me. The apartment changed, too. I moved her old mugs to a donation box, took down the framed photos, replaced the floral throw blanket on the couch with a navy one that actually felt like mine. I reclaimed space, and slowly, I began to rebuild. I started hiking again. Drove up to Pisgah Forest with nothing but a bag of snacks and a journal. Sat under a pine tree for 2 hours doing absolutely nothing, and for once, it didn't feel like wasted time. I messaged my old friend Jeremy, the one Elise always said was too blunt. We met up for dinner at a pub downtown, and for 2 hours, we didn't talk about her. We talked about work, bad bosses, indie games, the best bourbon under $30. I realized I'd missed having conversations that didn't come with an emotional invoice. By the end of the month, the only trace Elise had left in my life was a stack of wedding deposits I'd already written off. Rachel had sent me a final confirmation. Subject, status update, no contact holding. All parties have complied. No breach reported. You're clear, Adam. Clear. I stared at that word for a while. It didn't feel like a victory. It felt like breath. I wasn't better yet. I wasn't magically healed, but I was whole again. In my own space, under my own roof, living a life that no longer felt like a project someone else was managing. This wasn't a comeback story. This was a survival story, and I was the one writing the next chapter. By early summer, Elise's name had stopped trending, at least among the people who once hovered around her like planets orbiting a bright, curated sun. Whatever glow she built through polished captions and filtered selfies had started to fade. Word got around, as it always does. First it was subtle. Her Sage Circle podcast went quiet, then vanished. One of her brand deals, the organic skin serum she swore had changed her aura, quietly dropped her without announcement. Then came the bigger blow. A wellness brand she'd been an ambassador for posted a vague message about parting ways with certain influencers due to values misalignment. I didn't gloat. I didn't post about it, or send screenshots to friends, or forward the rumors to Rachel. I just read the headlines, closed the tabs, and kept sipping my coffee. Because the truth is, Elise didn't implode because of me. She imploded because the mask fell off, and she couldn't convince people to keep pretending. From what I heard, she moved back in with her parents in Pineville. Valerie wasn't happy about it. A friend of a friend said they were already arguing over Wi-Fi bills and expectations. Elise's Instagram, once a daily stream of smoothies, sunsets, and spiritual soundbites, was now quiet. A few soft posts about healing and honoring the process, but no comments, no sponsors, no traction. She had become a cautionary tale. I kept the footage, though. The original stream, the comments, the screenshots of her laughing at my life. Not because I wanted to relive it, but because I needed the reminder. Proof. Armor. Some people carry heartbreak in old photos. I carry mine in a drive labeled closure. But I wasn't stuck there. I started walking in the mornings again, a quiet path near the greenway where the air smelled like earth and moss. No headphones. No phone. Just me and the sound of my steps. I started journaling again too. Nothing dramatic, just a few lines every night. What I noticed, what I felt, what I hoped. At first, the pages were bitter, sharp-edged and clenched, but over time, they softened. I wrote about my apartment and how peaceful it felt without her perfume lingering in the hall. About the new chair I bought, firm, ugly, perfect. About how silence no longer felt empty. It felt earned. Sometimes I wrote about trust, not in others, but in myself. That was the part I'd missed for so long. The quiet confidence that I could rebuild, that I didn't need someone to validate my life in order for it to be whole. Friends asked if I was dating again. I said not yet. Not because I was afraid, but because I was finally okay being alone. And alone, it turns out, didn't mean lonely. I spent more time with Jeremy and his wife. We made dumb jokes, watched bad horror movies, ordered wings that burned the roof of our mouths. I started showing up to things again, not out of obligation, but choice. One night, I came home after dinner and stood on my balcony, watching the lights of the city flicker like a heartbeat. I thought about how close I came to marrying someone who saw me as a transaction, and how lucky I was to find out before I signed the contract. I didn't just walk away from Elise. I walked back to myself. And trust, well, that's going to take time. I know that, but I'm grounded now, in something better than love, in self-respect. Elise lost her followers, her image, her momentum. I lost the illusion, and in the quiet that followed, I found something stronger than a ring or a vow. I found peace.